the GenAI in TeacherEd Summit 2025?
Looks like they are getting together to work out how to use us.
We better watch what they are doing then.
So now we are into Ben. Ben, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Yeah,
Oh,
yes, I am.
Lovely. Okay.
I'll just try sharing.
Brilliant.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
Ben is going to share some resources and talk us through some support for empowering educators for you and your trainees. So Ben's slides are also on the Padlet now. I'll share the link again. I know there was a Cloudflare outage, so people couldn't access the Padlet, but hopefully you can now. There's also a survey on there. If you can do that, that will really help us drive things forwards and know where to go next with this as well. Okay, over to you, Ben. Thank you very much.
Right, can I just check that I am sharing? So I'm on one screen, followed by yes. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
I just a quiet aside. My wife's home and she's doing a geography subject leader course, and I said she could have the second screen, not forgetting that I was doing this, just getting my times, and inspired by Miles. I said, "Oh, we should let AI decide who gets it in a sort of choose your own adventure thing." And yeah, it didn't come out on my side. So,
Blame Miles.
Yeah, blame Miles. Yeah, right.
Thanks so much.
Right, thank you very much, Victoria. I sort of start off by apologising. I think just because I find some of the themes and the contents that I will talk about in this session have been covered by others already. So apologies there for the repetition. From my point of view, given the caliber who has presented before me, at least gives me some validity of what I'm going to say. So I'll start off just with usual context. Who am I? Ben Davies. I am a former primary school teacher, over 23 years of doing that role. Always involved in ed tech. Doing so, I had some unnecessarily wordy titles as I was a teacher, things like lead practitioner for digital skills and implementation. That was for a local authority, and specialist leader in education for digital technology and computing. That was with the Teaching Alliance. In that latter role, that's where my sort of any experience that I've had with supporting trainee teachers has come into play. So within that, I helped on the curriculum for those in school-based training, looking at primary computing, primary science curriculum, and the use of digital technology to support learning and teaching and learning. Now I am the primary computing lead at BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT, wordy again. You might be correct in questioning why such a role exists, possibly not that obvious why. So from BCS's point of view, being the Chartered Institute of IT, what they want to ensure is there's a diverse and ethical pipeline of people coming into the IT profession. They want to shift the stereotype of the IT industry from the tech bro culture that currently exists to one that's about sound and informed ethical practice. One where decision making and is at the front of IT, and IT is being used to make society a better place. One of the vehicles that they utilize in doing this, sort of more of a long-term vehicle, this one, is free support to schools, free support to education around aspects of the computing curriculum and digital literacy. So this is where I come in. So these are the programs that I work on. So there's Barefoot Computing, some people might have heard of, which provides support to primary school teachers, non-specialists really, in teaching the computing curriculum and the use of technology in the classroom. And the main one is Computing at School, which is sort of known to many as CAS. It's the subject association for computer science. It's whatever it's referred to in the different home nations. But yeah, it's the subject association, but it's also, and probably more importantly, an active community of computing teachers in various forms, support, guises, through various aspects of education, who are there to sort of inspire and really sort of promote that idea that all all learners should be receiving a high quality computing education. Over the last couple of years, we've been approached by schools and sort of teachers outside of our normal computer science community, just asking us for any advice, support that we've got on using AI tools in various ways. Just looking at them to support teaching and learning, which has led to us developing the CAS AI Community, the online community, which is a hub, sort of a central holding point for a range of free AI content that we have collated from our own resources and from quality resources by others that we know and trust, those whose ethics.
Sorry, Ben, is it just me? But I'm not getting the slides moving on. I don't know if that is meant to be happening.
They are on the screen, they're just not on ours.
Yeah, any better now?
That's fine. That's the second one. Who, where, why?
I think it's Microsoft that have something against us today.
Yeah. So
maybe they're always listening, aren't they? We should be sponsored by Microsoft, and then things would work well.
Yeah,
it would have been fine. Tell you.
Right, so that should be recapping what was going. So I was on the AI teacher community right at the bottom, wasn't I? There we go. And where, so it's what brings me here today is just sort of the opportunity to share some of those resources, how they might be used. I've been assured that the page is now working and stable. It wasn't at the start of this, so I wasn't going to be showing the page because it just said internal server error with a big 500 number being shown. So I can feel like I can move on to that. Right. Why are sort of we thinking that AI is important in schools? Why is it important in initial teacher training? Those ideas. Well, for us, it's already influencing education. We have things like adaptive learning platforms, automatic feedback tools, planning support, sort of AILA that Matt was mentioning earlier. These are all part and parcel now of everyday teaching for some. These are not futuristic tools. They're not things that are going to require a reboot of the profession. These are things that can be integrated into existing practice. And they're tools that are available at a touch of a button, or for some, I find myself more frequently, my use of AI is just through conversations using voice and having sort of those brainstorming types of things. But we just think that all those in the school ecosystems need to understand the process, the potential, but also the limitation of these AI tools. And I think you're preparing the future teachers for this reality, making sure that they're going into the classrooms with some confidence in the use of AI and knowing how to use it responsibly and effectively, making sure they're not behind the curve, just partly because of the pace at which it is changing. There's often been the adage in education about if you can't keep up, if you can't catch up, but then making sure that just that everybody in that sort of space has the potential to sort of maximize the benefits that come from AI. So also a dimension here for us as well about equity and making sure that it's not just those early adopters that do it, that it's actually something that everybody can have. And in some way, thinking about those that are training to be teachers today being the trainers of tomorrow or even the trainers of now. I mean, I'm a big fan of the term sort of CPD and the process of CPD by stealth. Just sort of think of the opportunity of trainees going into placements and just asking questions about how that school might be using AI, and they could be the catalyst that somebody needs to start the school themselves considering their AI implementation. You know, there is a balance and a bit of transparency to strike, and this thing about human oversight that has been sort of ever present in all of them, the presentations so far. And understanding what GenAI is, and that we need to understand how the output is decided, how it comes about, and knowing that you need to have a degree of expert to be able to judge the quality of that. One side of the argument saying that you have to have the experience, you have to be able to analyze that critically, and that only comes through sort of experience and knowing sound understanding of what good teaching and learning looks like, and security in the subject content that's being delivered. Then there's the other side that's, well, it is another form of a resource, possibly. And trainees, when I started teaching, I was sort of looking at books called 100 Numeracy Hours and sort of going through those, and didn't necessarily have the ability to decide whether if something was that good or not. And it was the point that I was using in the classroom for my formative years already, where I found out actually the quality of the resource. There is, so I suppose, that bit of added security with a published resource, that somebody somewhere has deemed it suitable, which is not the case with AI. And just that understanding for those using it, that how data is used, how bias is represented in those. So really, it's providing people with tools about being able to make a knowledgeable choice about AI and being able to make informed decisions about how they use it. So what I'd like to do, in hoping that the page is still working and still stable, yes, it appears to be, is sort of just really just show you some of the, and then some of where stuff is, what you'll find, and just talk briefly about that. So this is our main landing page for Computing at School, computingatschool.org. And I'm so going to go to digital themes area, where we have our AI theme. And here, this is the space where we collate everything. So just signpost a whole variety of things. Just going to scroll down the page and just watch and see what is there. We've got resources for schools that we might be teaching about AI, actually lessons for students on AI. We have these training videos. I'll go through in a moment and just put some flavor on these things. But this is the area where we just put everything that we have in one place where it can be accessed. There's also, which is slightly different, the AI online community. And by selecting online communities from communities and events, you can register to be a member of this. Registration is free. And what this allows you to do is just opt into notifications. So anytime we do anything within the AI space, put new resources, make new webinars available, you could just get an alert about that. I'll just hopefully now bounce back to my PowerPoint and go through what some of the things that we have are. So first, half-termly webinars. So as the name explains, these are every half term. Yep. And what we do with them is we bring together experts, practitioners, class teachers, a whole smorgasbord of people who are using AI in interesting, inspirational ways in schools. They're just a great way for staying up to date with current trends in AI or deepening subject knowledge. So recent sessions, we've had Darren Coxon explaining how to use the Google AI education tools to support teaching and learning. Tim Clark and Henry Penfold. I did see Tim's name earlier on the list, so hello, Tim, if you're still there. From Cornerstone C Primary, and they were providing a view of their AI implementation plan, as well as using some practical examples of how they were using AI to support teaching and learning in the classroom. I look on this session, I thought some really, rather than sort of blinding people with complexity and sort of this is how we're doing it and this is how complicated it could be, it's sort of some really easy wins, like using a large language model to generate the spellings in context for the weekly spelling test, and adding some other keywords in with them as well. So that our sessions, the ones that we've got coming up, we've got one that's focusing on the use of Copilot, and so that's designed for Microsoft schools. Although what we find is sometimes just with the ones that focus on a specific large language model, usually it's about the underlying practices and behaviors that you need to employ with them, less the sort of the actual interface itself. And we're looking at another one that looks at creating agents to support with specific tasks. So webinars, just like everything, free. They run from 4:15 to 5 p.m., say one every half term in the AI community, organized for a day in the week. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We try to vary them around a bit just so teachers can access them, and it's not always falling on the same night, so people are missing out because they've got a departmental meeting, staff meeting, whole school, whichever. We also make these videos available afterwards as well. So if people aren't able to join us live, they can catch up on the recording, and they can also, so we know that some schools use them for training within their schools. Right. We've also got a collection of training videos on there, which are small, digestible videos that sort of look at a specific use of a large language model in a certain way. So we might sort of look at, I'm trying to think of some examples. We've got one where we're looking at using AI to identify misconceptions within a certain curriculum topic and how to generate what they may be beforehand, and sort of just some activities that you might want to use should those come up. There's one that's about sequencing a unit of learning, and one which is on reflecting on lessons afterwards. So it might be a particularly useful way to sort of to encourage thought about any lesson evaluations, just by entering into a dialogue with the model about the perceived successes and areas of development within the lessons. We have got some ready-made CPD resources, which sort of training, our staff training that focused on the use of AI to support teaching and learning. So they're ready there for teachers to roll out if they're charged with leading some training in their school. One focusing on a secondary context, one in a primary, and one for wider staff training, so for non-teaching staff. Case studies, I think, are really valuable. They're examples of how schools are using AI based around a context with AI being used. So not just using AI for the sake of using it, or because the school up the road is using it, but using it to support an area of development in the school. That could be writing standards, teacher workload, communication. I think what I like about the case studies is realism and honesty. It's not that hyperbole about the revolution that AI is going to bring to education. Their schools showing where things have gone well, but also identifying where things have gone wrong and what they did to overcome those challenges. And finally, policies and documentations, well, quite self-explanatory, that one, but just in some ways for us, making sure that we're closing the loop and making sure that schools are supported in their implementation of AI in their establishments. We're not just sort of saying about how you use it, but doing this sort of the nitty-gritty as well. Then thinking about how these resources might be used. So first, we can think about sort of those who are those thinking about stuff within your establishments. They could be used to ensure that those who are training those that we're going to be teaching tomorrow, and if they're talking about AI within that their own confidence within AI is up to speed, so that they're passing on the right sorts of messages to the trainees, so that they have sort of informed information, that they are aware of the safeguarding risks, that they are aware of bias and hallucinations, things like that. Particularly good webinars for those that, to go back to watch the recordings. Say Darren Coxon's one which he did recently about the Google large language models, just looking at some good starting points, some good ideas, some inspirational ideas as well, but sort of that would be a good place to start. Also, sort of Mark Peace's session about mastering AI chatbots. About AI chatbots and thinking about how you set prompts and build them with context, character, caveats to ensure that the inherent bias in the system, or you're trying to minimize it being replicated in the output. And also some interesting stories of real life scenarios where AI hallucinations have had an impact, particularly at a court journalist in Australia. Also, these case studies can be used to sort of within meetings for discussions around AI's role in school and helping people reflect on their own understanding and their own use of AI and how it could be used in the classroom. Just keeping an eye on time. Got 5 minutes left, it looks like. So the another thing is sort of thinking about the diet and support that trainees might get with AI. So the resources on our website could be used to sort of develop their skills and understanding of the processes of AI in the first place, which I think is a sort of really important and valuable thing, so that we're not just saying it can do this, it can do this, it can do this, it's wonderful, these are all the benefits of it. But from the outset, having that equal balance of the essential, the necessity for human oversight. And I think with an understanding of the processes, and we're not talking neural network understanding of processes, but more appreciating how training data is used by the system, and how, I mean, Miles was showing it in a much more engaging way earlier, but that idea that, you know, it's making the prediction of what word's coming next. Actually, I think from a lot of my experience, when people sort of start getting their heads around, all right, that's what it's doing, it's then, oh, so I understand why it needs to be checked. You know, it's that it's moving it away from it's just a most likely, what the word is most likely next to it, oh, it being magic, that sort of idea. It's sort of, you then are able to sort of shift people's thinking and say, oh, of course we need to check it because we're not actually sure what's coming back from it. Okay, so it's having that idea, and also thinking about sort of the language that they use if they're talking about AI in front of learners, so they're not anthropomorphizing it, so they're not passing on this AI is magic onto those that they teach. Looping back in on equity, it was sort of thinking what Ellie was saying about the numbers and the different starting points that schools have with their use of AI. I mean, if you're in a situation, you may be in a situation where some trainees are going into schools where AI is being used in a very robust, safe, structured way, where there's leadership, there's oversight and governance, and the trainee is using AI, understanding its potential, but also day-to-day understanding its limitations, and sort of having really good role models around them about how AI can be used effectively. Some might be in schools where it's not being used, and others might be in the schools where AI shouldn't be being used, but we know from sort of our own conversations that there are teachers who are not supposed to, you know, the trust, the school might be saying, oh, we don't use AI, or we only use these tools, and they are using others, and sort of, so it's making sure that the trainees know actually that's not the way that it should be used. So making sure that their understanding of how AI should be used is based around a safe, consistent, and ethical use of AI. Thinking about how to adapt sort of current modules, I would be sort of advocating the not doing the, oh, now let's have a look at AI, more the where is there opportunity to thread AI into pedagogy, adaptive teaching, assessment, and all times promoting it as a tool a tool that can support, a tool that can offer a solution in various avenues of education. And at the same time, when we're mentioning that, building in all those caveats about bias, about hallucinations, about the need for various variety in the training data. So making sure that we're treating it as a tool and developing people teachers, classroom practitioners who understand that, make informed decisions about AI. And that's just not which is the best product to prove, but others have alluded to, it's actually knowing when it's not suitable to use AI. When is it the best place to use it, and when don't we use it? I think that's what an informed decision is, that sort of calculator understanding, knowing when it's right time to pull out the calculator for a calculation, or when it's not. Just wanted to briefly mention as well, it's quite, I think there's an interesting with AI and thinking about learning and how people might learning. There's sort of an interesting context that you can use it about the idea of how some of the quite complex themes of AI can be broken down for age-appropriate learning at certain levels. We've got some resources with Barefoot that look at bias, and so there's resources designed of 5 to 7-year-olds, so key stage 1 learning about AI, and they're doing that through the context of an AI cat flap, and the cat flap deciding if an animal is a cat or a dog, and opening it if it's a cat and remaining shut if it's not a cat. And we look then at, there isn't a black and white cat in the training data, but there is a black and white dog, and the impact of that. And then a similar activity for 9 to 11-year-olds is sort of looking at a school automatic door that uses facial recognition software, and the implication if the door has only been trained on girls with blonde hair and glasses. So yeah, there's another there. Rounding off, there's a QR code. So if you wanted to have a look at computing at school and register freely, as I said before, for sort of updates and access any of the resources that are on the CAS AI community page that is there. I think that brings me to 20 past, which was my time. So yes, I shall sort of start wrapping it up there, if that's okay.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much, Ben. We have a whole wealth of resources there for people to check out. So you've got a lot of homework now, everybody. So thank you so much for your time.
One convenient place to share it all. Okay, can I say?
Yes, there you go. Yeah, I've put that on the Padlet along with all the other slides. Just waiting for Pips to go up there as well. I know there were some problems with accessing the Padlet earlier because of the Cloudflare outage, so I've reposted the link there. Also, the link to our survey is on there as well, and a couple of polls, just because I like playing with the polls. But no, really, if you can have a go at those, that would be good.
Do you think we got away with it?
I'm not so sure.
Better keep an eye on this lot.